The Candlemaker is incredibly sweet, incredibly moving and heartfelt, but also a little creepy. The eyes of the characters are animated in a way that I find kind of menacing, and I know that's not the intention at all, and it's just a product of its time. This was released in 1957, but definitely the animation, although soft and gentle in some ways, is jagged and angular in others, and it just feels a little bit disjointed. Maybe that's just me because it doesn't matter, I still enjoyed the cartoon, but that's definitely something that stood out for me, the animation not being quite what I would have hoped for. Nevertheless, I did enjoy it. I do recommend it. It's directed by Batchelor and John Halas, and it tells the story of a candlemaker and his young son. It's coming up to Christmas, and the candlemaker has to go away for a few days, so he leaves his young son in charge of making the candles. And there's this beautiful moment at the start of the narrative where we are told, where the narrator tells us that a long time ago, young children used to have to behave like fully grown adults. And it kind of broke my heart a little bit because that was true. And obviously in the 50s, it was a long time ago. So it was even longer ago now, but it is just kind of heartbreaking to think that children used to have to work so relentlessly. But this little boy doesn't complain about it. There's almost a sense of pride that his father has trusted him to take on this work. And he's making all of the candles, but he has to remember to make the altar candle. There are 2 altar candles that need to be delivered to the church on Christmas Eve, and his father has already made one. The boy needs to remember to make the other one. Needless to say, there has to be some element of suspense in this narrative, and things don't go to plan. I won't say how or what happens, but it did break my heart a little bit, and there's a moment where the boy just puts his head in his hands and shakes his head, and I just felt so sorry for him, and it was very moving and very touching, and that's with the slightly angular, not very soft and pleasing animation style. It's not that I didn't like the animation style at all, sometimes it was quite pleasant, but definitely the little boy's eyes were just, they seemed hollow, and that gave it a kind of eerie quality. But generally speaking, the animation was pleasant enough. I enjoyed the narrative. It's about 12 or 13 minutes, and I think that's a perfect length. It's enough time for us to get to know the family dynamics, for us to get to know the little boy a bit more, and for then the problem to set in, and for suggestions of how to resolve it to kick in as we work out what could possibly happen or how they could fix the situation. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Definitely looks like a product of its time, which is not a fault. There are some cartoons in the 50s that were much sharper, much cleaner, better edited, smoother transitions. But generally it doesn't bother me at all. I just, I'm not used to soft Christmas narratives with kind of hollow-eyed children. But I did enjoy it. If you haven't seen The Candlemaker, it is on YouTube. It's definitely worth checking out. As I said, it's less than 15 minutes, and I think you'll find it heartwarming, a little bit emotional, and ultimately really enjoyable.